I know you're gonna dig this.
This is Rhine McLin, host of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles, recorded live here at DATV Studios in Dayton, Ohio. And now, my studio guest is Rodney Veal, host of the art show and board member of Levitt Pavilion. Hello, Rodney.
Hello, Ryan. How you think? Thanks for having me on the show.
We're so happy to have you because today, as we talk to you, we're going to take art and bring it into how important it is to the funk music genre. And so let's start off. You are from Dayton, Ohio.
Born and raised here, native Daytonian.
Native Daytonian, went to public school here.
Went to public schools, Dayton Public Schools, which always gets a bad rap, but I really do believe that
Where did you go?
I went to Jefferson Elementary and then Meadowdale Elementary and then Cornell before my parents moved to Jefferson Township for high school. So we moved out to JT.
JT.
JT, as we call it.
Yes,
as we call it,
yes.
JT. So,
and then tell us about your formal education.
Oh, my formal education after high school, I went to Eastern Michigan University. I left the state. I got a great opportunity to go to Eastern, which is in Ypsilanti, Michigan, and I studied visual arts and political science. So my undergraduate degree was there. But then I fell in love with dancing while I was in college. So I kind of combined all three. My parents were kind of really kind to allow me to do all of that on their dime. And that's where I learned everything. I came back to Dayton once I graduated and started working, which is what you do when you get out of school, because you can't have your dad's going to tell you, you need a good job, J-O-B.
So let's talk about your dance career.
Okay. I started out in the second company of Dayton Ballet, which was a series of events and just happenstances, as I like to call them. I ended up in a class with Bess Ember, who at the time she still is this amazing, phenomenal woman, who was teaching class. She used to be she was our first formal ballerina. Like she was the real deal, a sweet soul, really kind. She saw something in me, and so she introduced me to the director of the second company, and she saw me in class, and she offered me a position. She said, but we got some work to do. You're a little rough around the edges. We got to get those feet to point a little bit more and get you stronger in your ballet vocabulary and your movement. And I jumped all in. I said, if you're willing to think that I have skill, I took the chance. And so I kind of ran with it.
You know, the dance is so important. And it teaches you movement and teaches you grace, teaches you style. And when I was growing up, there was Connie's Dance Studio. Okay. And then there were some others, but of course there was Geraldine's London School of Dance. And so all of us little girls, we all took dance of some form of fashion. And I had an opportunity to go to the Dayton Ballet, and I always wanted to be this ballet dancer. But my body was not made. My heart was there.
Your heart was there, but the body wasn't there.
And it's you have to be unique as African Americans to toe dance. I wanted to toe dance.
You want to get on those. You want to put those shoes on to kind of roll. Yeah.
Yeah, and and our bodies are really different.
They really are
and
different,
so
yeah.
that's why I think we don't see a lot of African American
That-
ballet dancers.
And
It's because of the uniqueness of our bodies.
And that you have to be in a place, but also too because you have to be in a place where the instruction understands and is aware of that physiological difference. I mean, Dayton Ballet was really aware because, and this I think this is really important, like you talked about Geraldine School of Dance, is the fact that the Swartz sisters taught African American students, and they made it their mission to make sure that African American students were being taught. And they taught Geraldine Blunden and encouraged her to say, you start your own school and company because this is the right thing to do. I mean, that kind of forward progressive thinking was really critical because and so there wasn't sort of a lack of an awareness that my body was a little different than others. Very thick, muscular. I was kind of built like a linebacker back in the day. Big thighs, big muscles, big muscle groups, but which made me a big jumper and able to lift women. So partnering was an easy thing. So that's why I was really excited about Dayton Ballet because I felt like there was an institutional awareness of that, like they understood that. So at the time, which is great.
At that time, and then you moved on to how long did you dance?
I danced for almost 20 years.
That's a long time.
A very long time. I felt my knees this morning getting here. I was like, oh, whoa, you did used to be a dancer. I'm still teaching. The fact that I could have left, there was an opportunity to leave to go dance elsewhere, but I was told that I was in the best place for dancing in the country to be trained. They said, why are you leaving Dayton? Dayton has the best training. This is from people from New York. They were telling me, like, DC, Dayton Ballet, and those instructors, you've got it made. And so I said, no, I'll just stay. And so I stuck it out. I was with the second company, Dayton Ballet, and then one of the principal dancers, Barbara Pontecorvo, went and started her own school and company. And I went with Barbara, and I danced, and then I got a bug for wanting to be a choreographer, and she gave me that first chance and opportunity, and I ran with it. I've been choreographing ever since. So it's kind of landed me at teaching at Sinclair and teaching at Stivers, the Stivers School for the Arts as well.
You know, Stivers is so unique. It reminds you of the movie Fame and Debbie Allen and all of them.
Oh yeah, we've got our Debbie Allen with Deshauna Pepper Robertson. She's tough as nails, and she trains them. She's a really great lady who just turned 50, by the way. She does not look 50, so she's a pretty amazing lady.
So we got Stivers, and that is such an opportunity for young people to go and be able to blend all of the musics as well as the academics.
Yes, very much so. I think you can't. What's really great about it is the fact that we have a school that has 1,000 students, and we keep getting classes filled with students of talent and potential. Dayton's a breeding ground for creativity and talent. And we have to kind of, and then the fact that we have that as an outlet is really cool. I think that's I'm just in awe.
You know, Dayton, when it comes to talent, talent, even going back as far as the Paul Laurence Dunbar and the poetry, and always talk about his poetry was a rap before we knew
before it was a rap, exactly.
Before we knew what a rap was.
Yeah.
And then you have the dancers, the Gerald. I mean, DC, Dayton Contemporary Dance Company, is world renowned.
Yes, it is. And it really is. It truly is.
And so many dancers have come out of here. And then you have the Wright State that has its film and art school. You've had students that have done documentaries and that have been shown at Sundance. And I mean, when they leave in this area, they can just about make it anywhere.
Pretty much anywhere. Because the reputation of the training here in this community, from all like what you just described, is universally known. And I always think about, because I think a current example is like Hannah Beachler. She was a production designer on Black Panther. A lot of people don't realize she's a Wright State graduate.
Yes.
And she's like one step away from like an Oscar nomination because of her work on that film. She's that good. she walks among us. She's from us. She's from this community. I think, and it just opens the door for people to take a look at, hey, if I see Wright State or Dayton on a resume, I might give that person a shot, because look what Hannah did, or look what Don Wood did from DC, or Rebecca Wright from Dayton Ballet, who was a dancer at American Ballet Theater. It's every time. It's like, even when we talk about funk, when you mention funk to people, all around, when you go around and you talk about it, they know. I'm amazed at how many people go, they know Dayton, Ohio. They know it's like connective thread to this art form. They know it. Like France and London, Paris, you mention it, they know it.
Yes,
it's
now,
pretty amazing. Yeah.
So now that we talked about dance, because dance is also
that's part of it.
Part of funk.
Yes, it is.
I mean, that is a tremendous part of funk, and so and you are a prime example of combining the dance. Now we're going to talk about art, and so tell me about your art experience, and we're going to go back to talking about you at Stivers and at Sinclair, because Sinclair puts on some great plays.
Right now, I'm doing a play right now, Be More Chill, that I could just choreograph. I mean, I'm choreographing, and it's opening next week. So that's, I mean, that whole how to describe visualize the fact that I knew I was going to be connected in some sort of creative capacity. I love painting. That's still my love. I still do it, but I use it in a different way now, because I'm using digital technology to paint. So I'm doing a lot of things that are using graphic design programs, video. I kind of branched out and morphed into different kinds of elements of making art, because of the fact that I would go to summer programs and there would be Bing Davis. I love Bing.
Institution. An institution.
And the fact that, I'm a part of that sort of, what's the word for it, like that legacy and that history. And I've combined it in my way. And I love the fact that's what I love about Dayton, is the fact that you can have all these different, you could be in the visual art world, and it could be in politics, and you could be in dance, and you can still combine it all together and make change and create and do and be and have a life. I mean, I think that's really important. I have a life with it. Yeah.
And so, talking about art, who would have thunk that we would have been able to have such a beautiful mural documenting the funk?
Oh, I know. I
mean, that's just awesome.
How many people are down there taking photos in front of that mural? I mean, that's cool. I mean, it's not even just the fact that it's beautiful, it's fun, and it captures the spirit, that funky vibe. It's vibrant. That's a vibrancy to funk. It's about funk. You're not sitting there contemplating funk music.
No.
You're moving, you're grooving, you're getting into it, you're feeling the blood flowing through your veins. You're embracing living in life. That's what funk music does, and the fact that they see it represented visually, and you see the big smiles on their faces, and they're taking these selfies with the images on the mural wall. That's important.
It's extremely important.
And art was very important to funk artists as well. Those album covers.
Yes,
I mean, think about I always think about like the Ohio Players album covers. Now I know my mom was like, okay, my older brother Richard, like, put that album cover away. Don't let your grandmother see it. but that's when you first realize lighting and stagecraft, and like presentation. That's what drew us in. We're like, wow, what's on this album? And then you heard the music, I go, this is a nice groove.
And then, the other thing about funk music, the albums, the art, because most of the album covers were kind of racy.
Yeah, they were. They're provocative. This is the word. We'll use the word.
Yeah, I mean, not different than,
no different than
today, but
they were the standard bearers for the things that everybody does today that we take for granted.
That they took it a step further, but but what at those times, to have an album cover with all of this. So see, you missed this with the CDs and things like that, because there wasn't all that thought.
Right.
Because if you look at who they think on an album cover, it covers a whole array of people because everybody had a special role.
A lot of times you saw like where you would see inspiration from.
Yes,
like we talk about,
yes,
I'm
yes.
inspired by James Baldwin, inspired by Thelonious Monk, inspired by Rosa Parks, inspired by Nikki Giovanni. I mean, you could see they would reference things that were culturally significant to why they made the music that they made, which. Our day and age, you would read it and then you would go and look it up, and you would, or it would just be, you would sense this was bigger than just a party album, that there was just a music to groove by. This is about our culture.
About our culture.
So I think that's really what's important about it. It's the whole culture. There was a little bit of the secular, there's a little bit of the spiritual, and I mean, it's all in there. I think that's what makes it so successful.
And I think also the thing about funk is that it was so inclusive with all the different instruments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, instrumentation, really playing instruments.
Playing and actually singing.
Yeah. And actually singing.
And actually singing, actual music, I mean, giving, when you say give the drummer some, the drummer actually was drumming. Yeah, he didn't have a lot of...
He didn't press a button. He didn't go click.
He was actually using his arm muscles and rhythm.
Right.
I get so excited when we talk about the funk music because, and you have somebody like a Rodney with you, to talk about how we go from dance to the artisticness of a cover. And now we're going to move on up to the music part, but with the art, because the art and the music and the dance, because you had to have movement. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was a whole nother level of presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
don't you think?
Oh, it totally is. I mean, especially for our culture, because dancing, like other than food and going to church, dancing was our common bond. And the dancing has that sort of, there's a community element to it. It's communal. And we may not articulate it as being communal, but we recognize it as being communal, so we'll all join in. And it doesn't matter how old you are, from the little babies to the grandmas and the great-grandmas doing a little move. May not be able to move as much, but they got the shoulder action with the arms. So, and kids are doing their things with, big and expressive as, children can move, young people can move. So you've got this whole multi-generational connective thread.
Well, and
right?
In Dayton now you have all these dance clubs, I guess, they're doing the steppers, and they're doing ballroom dancing, they're doing line dancing. Dance is such a vibrant part of our community here in Dayton. I always say that Dayton is the smallest, biggest city you ever want to live in.
Yeah, I love that. It's a great title.
It is. It's the smallest, biggest city you ever want to live in. It's just like with you and I, Rodney. We don't even live a mile apart from each other.
No, we don't.
It's the first time we just seen each other in a long time.
Right, and actually have a conversation.
But we're still in the same area.
We're still in the area, same area. Yes.
And so that's why I say that Dayton is the biggest, smallest town that you ever want to live in, because and there's something here for everyone.
There really is.
That's
there really
the
is.
beauty of a Dayton, Ohio. There is something here for everyone. And just like the opening of the Funk Museum, you go in there and you're going like, Dayton,
Light bulbs go off. They really do.
Even there's a mural in the museum.
Yes.
As you go in, and I've always thought that artwork. Art murals, I've always enjoyed murals, and one of the things I was always fascinated with was Philadelphia. And because Philadelphia has all of these murals, and that's because they have that art school that they can do that, and it was an agreement, because I know at one time I wanted to come back and do the same thing. And it was more difficult because they had these art schools.
There was a kind of there was a connective thread. It was easier to have that conversation.
Easier to have that conversation without the cost and expense that you would have here, because the talent was there as part of the class, and the only thing that the city had to do was to get permission for the building and allow and maybe prep it.
and prep it,
Yes,
and still be this collaborative thread.
But we're getting there here in
Yeah, I
Dayton.
think so. We
and,
are.
you know,
I think we are.
and you
I think
had
we
to
are.
start somewhere.
You have to. You
had to start somewhere. And murals are really, there used to be a mural, there it still is, a mural on East, I think it's 3rd, East 5th, as you go out, right before you get to Huffman. And it was a building, and I always admired that building because
I think I know which one you're talking about. Yes.
it had that mural. And then you had the mural that they just did with the Wesley Center.
Yes.
They've done a mural down in the Wright Dunbar area to
James Pate,
James Pate, to highlight what's in that area. And so now with the you're seeing more and more murals popping up around.
And there's a mural just on right across the street from Levitt Pavilions, which is actually a block away from the Funk mural that's up behind the Neon Movies.
And there's also a mural across from the Neons at the used to be the bus station.
Wesley Morris, he's a phenomenal artist.
And so what
in our community, he lives here.
So
these are local
what
artists.
is happening now, which we will eventually see, there will be tours of murals. Where you will get a little brochure and it will tell you where all the murals
are. Which I love.
Which is cool. I mean, because Dayton itself may never be a General Motors town. That will not happen again. But as far as cultural and arts, it has all the ingredients to be that.
And art and culture cannot be separate from the fact that it can be an economic catalyst.
Yeah, and I think
we forget, it's like that we tend to not think of it in those terms a lot, and I think we really need to start.
We miss that. We miss that all the time
because
people think of art as free and things like that. But when you talk about art, we're talking about somewhere you have to buy the paint, somewhere you have to buy the supplies.
Artists are getting paid. There are licensing fees. There are venues that need to be maintained. So there's like the secondary incomes that are coming out of facility management, facilities being built, facilities being run. So all of the dollars in the art are not necessarily with the actual art making, but the actual platform in which art is being made. And that's a legitimate reason why people travel. We travel. We don't go to Paris just to go to Paris. We go to Paris to see the Eiffel Tower, to go to see the Louvre, we go to see the Mona Lisa, we go to walk along these beautiful bridges that are beautiful pieces of architecture, which is art. That's why you go to Paris. You come to Dayton to hear funk. You come to see murals. You come to tour the Paul Laurence Dunbar House. You come because it has a feel and a vibe to it that's genuinely Midwestern, authentic Americana. Whatever's driving you here, you're not going because it used to be a GM town.
Right.
You're coming because it's got something that's more exciting.
And I think that's what makes it even more unique, because of being a GM town, you would not think that we would have all the talent and the artistry that we have.
No. And the fact that we embrace it. I mean, my dad worked in the factory, so the fact that I came in and told him that I have an art degree and a political science degree and I'm dancing, and the fact that he was okay with that. That to me is huge.
That's huge, and it's very progressive.
Very progressive, but I felt like I don't think he's that unique in the sense that the community, because I teach a lot of kids whose parents are working class parents who believe in their children's talent. They believe that talent and creativity matter. So my dad believed it mattered to be able to you could be an African American and you can be an artist. It's like he didn't question.
Yeah.
He didn't question.
I just want to go back a little, roll back real quick when we talk about one of the original murals in West Dayton was on Riverview.
Yes. Because we lived at the bottom of Riverview.
And that's one of the original. And I think I just saw some folks over there in the last week or two that were doing a cleanup, and they have done a touch up to it.
Yeah.
And that's unique. And I want to say that when this mural that's been done in tribute to the funk, leading us up to the Funk Museum. When you talk about why there is a Funk Museum in Dayton, Ohio, you can't really think of where else would you have it. I can't think of where else.
No, and I think a lot of people in the music industry think the same way.
Yeah, and they're embracing it. They're embracing it. And you know, the other thing that's so unique is that a lot of people didn't think that this would ever, it was just a thought.
Oh.
And that it would never get to where it is today. And you have to commend David Webb and his team. They had the vision. They just were persistent. They just kept on to get it done.
Just get it done.
And so now, you know, we have people who are embracing it, and we want to do more with it. And just like having you, Rodney, here to talk about how do you see you, the Levitt Pavilion, which you are a board member, and the Funk Museum, and your art. Tell us how you intertwine all these things together.
Well, I intertwine it with the belief that no one singular thing, or activity, or action is going to turn the ship around.
Oh, and I just want to interject. We cannot forget University of Dayton, because they just hosted that Funk Museum, the symposium,
which was fantastic, and it probably opened a lot of eyes and ears and minds to the concept of that funk. And
so I wanted to throw that out there.
Oh, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did.
As you go,
and higher education matters as well. We're, as a board member of Levitt, we believe we're just not an island in and of itself. We have to be good neighbors. We have to embrace everything about Dayton, and that includes the museum, because it matters. It's like we're going to have bands who are paying tribute to funk playing. I mean, we've had bands, and you realize that that's how they describe themselves, that we are a funk band. And when you tell them that they're playing in Dayton, Ohio, they start rattling off Heatwave, Ohio Players, Zap, can we go? You know, like yes, yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. So they embrace it. So we have to be, everything matters. And so we have to be good neighbors. And so we all have to embrace when something, and get excited and celebrate the greatness and the goodness of everything that's been happening. Like I believe, like, we celebrate the mural. We celebrate the Funk Museum existing. I celebrate it. I go, yes, yes, and yes, because there are, like you said, a lot of naysayers. There were a lot of naysayers about Levitt. And we got it done, which is really basically roll your sleeves up, get it done. I don't believe in a conversation that starts off with, or these are all the things that could go horribly wrong. I mean, really, that's just, if I live by the principle as an art maker that, here's the laundry list of all the things that could go wrong, maybe I shouldn't do it, I would never make art. I would never create. Risk. Take the risk. David and his team didn't take the risk on funk because because it was for the greater good. They took the risk because they knew that the story of funk needed a platform and a vehicle to be seen. That serves many people. It didn't serve David, it didn't serve the team, it served everyone. And so when you start to think it serves a greater purpose than you and I, that's when it works. That's why it matters to just roll your sleeves up and get it done. So therefore, look at the transformation. People said that, no one's going to be in downtown Dayton on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. These people come to concerts and hang out on the lawn. They're just chatting and having a good time. I see families, I see people dancing. You mentioned, like WRRU Faith has introduced many of the bands on the stage, so we're bringing in urban radio. We made sure that UD got excited. They brought their students down to Levitt for the freshman class coming in to say, look what's downtown that you could be a part of, and it's free. Everything ties together when we all try to do it for the greater good. And that's what I believe in. So that's why I'm on the board of Levitt, because Levitt believes in that mission. And I know David believes in that mission with funk, so I get excited when David gets excited, I get excited. So, that's me.
Now that's the other thing that's unique about Dayton. To have all the talent, all the wonderful things that we have. It separates the wheat from the chaff, because those who are the vision makers have to travel through this terrible road of naysayers to get,
I know.
to get to the clearing in the forest. I mean, whether it was the fountains downtown, whether it
baseball.
was baseball.
Do you remember how that went down?
And whether it's Metro Parks. I mean, and
at every turn, it's always the list of the negatives.
It'll
never happen.
Even down to the Schuster Center.
No one will ever go downtown to. Why do we need a center?
Right, because we still want to make rights bikes, and so, but look at the library.
I know.
I want to give I want to compliment our library because with David's working relationships, they were able to even begin to what you would call give the appetizer to a museum by being up at the Northwest Library.
Yes, very much so.
So that was an appetizer. Here's that library going back to what you're talking about, the creativity.
The creativity and connective thread.
Yes, think about when we have. I just lost the word. It's when they do the plays. What is it called? When they have all the sample plays come to Dayton.
The Future Fest.
Future Fest.
Yes.
Dayton, Ohio. Future Fest.
I don't think people really embrace and understand that those are playwrights who are right on the cusp of making it big. That they could be. You could actually see a play or from a playwright who eventually goes to Broadway and could be in that category of the 5 that are chosen to be best play. And that has occurred. I think sometimes we don't realize that you have a chance to get on the ground floor.
And I just for the movie with the basketball players, the old basketball players playing the street ball, and I can't think of the name of it right at this
Uncle
moment.
Something. It's got a name. But
it does a revival again of funk music because they're playing the funk music in the band.
The fact is, let's face it. A lot of rap doesn't exist. Rap doesn't exist without funk.
It doesn't.
It does exist. And it's sampled ridiculously heavily. Back in the 80s and the 90s, there was a lot of sampling, huge amounts of sampling. But now now you see an artist go, well, maybe I should just collaborate with the originators and make original sound.
Because I remember this one part in the movie where he's playing Juicy Fruit, and he's playing the original Juicy Fruit, and the young kid is playing Juicy Fruit with the rapper, and it just goes to show you how it just comes full circle.
It does come, yeah.
And funk music is permanent.
Oh, it's not going anywhere.
It's permanent.
it's not going anywhere.
And so I really would I think that when we talk about it, that the museum, I can see so many things happening with the museum as time goes on and people become as it grows. And, art, and eventually, as you and I are sitting here, we know that there's going to be someone who's going to write a play about funk.
Oh, it's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. Don't worry, it's coming.
It's coming.
They're going to get inspired by it and then create different art forms.
Do the play of funk music because Wesley's Center did one with their kids and stuff a few years ago, and it was really cool. But to really go mainstream, you're going to see that happen. You got Dr. Scott out there who's written all these Scott Brown, who's written all these books, and he feels at home in Dayton as he does out in California.
Right.
Of his experiences.
Yeah, that's so great.
And I think that even the naysayers, because that's just Dayton way. I've come to the conclusion that's just Dayton
that is
way.
So true. To naysay until it happens, and then it happens, and that's when it stops.
Only the strong survive.
Only the strong survive. Yeah.
And once you get through it, then the naysayers will come on board slowly but surely.
They come on board. They will.
But that's just the Dayton way.
They'll come around.
They'll come around.
And I believe in that.
But it is. I have come to the conclusion that it is the Dayton way, because I've had too many experiences.
You really have had some experience of people being
say,
yeah.
It's the Dayton way, and I really truly believe that. And so therefore, even when you know that you're on the right track. You know you're on the right track.
When you got people coming up to you telling you that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen.
Oh yeah, they beat you down. So only the strong survive. Right. So we have to always give credit to David Webb and
yes, we do.
and his team of weathering the storm. They still got some more storms to go through.
But, we all do. We all do.
But you can see the clearing.
You can see the clearing. Yeah, you can see the clearing. Yeah.
I do want to say to you. This has been such a delightful conversation.
Thank you. This has been fun. This has been great.
And Rodney, tell me 3 things about why the Funk Museum is important, how Stivers and Sinclair can be a part of it, and whatever else you want to say. But give me your 3 points.
My 3 points. I would say that the Funk Museum matters, period. There's no, don't even, it just matters. Don't try to define it, it just matters. Number 2, we have a lot of great community partners out there, and here's an opportunity and a vehicle to connect. There should not be a non-connective thread between K-12 education and higher education to the Funk Museum. Number 3, naysayers, be gone. So we say it's the Dayton way, but I'm really going to say, why don't we change the Dayton way? Let's start with, let's try it and let's make it happen. Don't immediately jump to the negative of it can never be. Let's jump to let's try it. Let's see.
That warms my heart. Rodney, thank you.
You're very welcome.
This is Rhine McLin, host of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles. Until the next time, keep it funky.
Thank you.